Welcome to the TBGPodcast, where we talk about identity, who we are, and who we're meant to be. I'm Seth. I am a husband, a father, and an entrepreneur. And with me is my wife.
And I'm Katie. I'm a wife, a mother, a recent graduate of a Master's of Arts program in psychology, and also an entrepreneur.
Also an entrepreneur. She's been helping me in some of the final stages of this business as we've got rolling. All right, today we're talking a little more about faith. Hopefully we can make it a little more practical as we share some of our story as we've been kind of growing into this concept and learning more as we continue to study and try and practice it. Before we get into that, though, head over to our website, which is now live. Of course, you've known that from the previous podcasts as I've recorded little clips to put in, and we'll get a little more into that as part of this story. But anyways, go over to tobegotten.com. You'll find some shirts there that you can purchase, and we're actually wearing one of them right now. It's the Simple Logo Luxe version. It's got the logo on the chest here and TBG underneath, and then a QR code on the other sleeve. Yeah, you should be able to see it. For those watching, you'll see it on Katie's sleeve. The purpose of that QR code is a mechanism to share. And it's a way that we're trying to mesh the content and the concepts that we talk about in this podcast with a business model of selling shirts
and merchandise.
Yeah.
It's kind of the concept of the message is free, but the t-shirt isn't.
That's right.
And
the message is free, but the t-shirt is not.
So the t-shirts are how, we're being supported and being able to grow. And then also we have the QR code, which we are going to be doing differently. Like this was our first trial shirt just to see how it all worked out, making sure the material was good and all the things. But the QR code on the Lux shirt, simple logo, goes to our main homepage, but future shirts will be linked somehow. I'm not sure. He's a technical guy, but linked to the content that's relevant to that shirt.
Correct. So if you buy a shirt that talks about faith, since we're talking about faith here, that QR code will take you back to kind of the topic page for faith, where you will find all of the resources for that topic and the shirts that apply as well. So yeah, the website is still much in being built. And maybe even by the time that this podcast actually goes live, it'll be much further along than even we're talking about now.
Sure hope so.
Sure hope so, yeah. We're trying to record ahead a little bit and give ourselves some buffer. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the topic.
So remind me what the title is of this topic.
Oh, this topic?
Yeah.
Grab your shovel.
Okay.
The subtitle, How to Move Mountains.
Move some mountains. Got it. Okay.
Yes. And it's still along the lines of faith, but we wanted to try to make it real practical and share a little more of our story with it.
Yeah, so more of a personal testimony of recent happenings.
Yeah. To start with, though, I do want to start in the Bible. We're going to read Matthew 17, 14 through 21, and that will hopefully give us a little bit of context for what we'll be talking about. All right, starting with verse 14, this is King James Version. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed. For oftentimes he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him. And the child was cured from that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. So this is kind of the age-old story, or the age-old explanation of faith, right? it's often used as you have to have faith as big as a really tiny thing that grows really big. And that's kind of the explanation. So we would like to go through this with a little bit more of the definition of faith that we've studied from the Bible that we believe is more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So to remind us of what that is, that definition of faith is what? Can you regurgitate it?
Substance of things unseen but hoped for.
I mean, like our wording of
Oh,
it.
our wording of it.
Yes.
Being convinced of a thing and acting accordingly.
All right. Yeah. Being convinced of a thing. And this comes from kind of a word study on the original language of the words of faith and belief and all of their different forms. So in this verse, specifically verse 20 is what we'll be talking about a lot. When Jesus tells them why they could not cast out the devil, he says, because of your unbelief. That word I've got it here in my notes, it's apistia, and I am probably completely slaughtering that, but it's apistia, and it's Greek 570 in the Strongs, and it simply means faithlessness. Then further down, when he says, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, that word faith is pistis. So it is the alternate or the opposite of apistia. So it's because they're both a same root word, right? Yeah, and that word faith, pistis, is persuasion or credence. And the root word of both of these words, if you trace back in the original language where all these words come from, is from peitho. Again, I'm probably completely slaughtering that. Greek 3982, and it means to convince. And I don't know if you've listened to, hopefully you have listened to the second podcast, second podcast, where we explain a little bit of, this concept of faith from the Bible. It's to be convinced of a thing, and so then you are permanent, or you have actions that are consistent with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the words here are very much in line. It's all the same words. It's belief. It's faith. This is what this is talking about.
It's all the same root word.
It's all the same root word. It's all the same group of words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So mustard seed. Or maybe we should first talk about kind of the traditional view of faith as it relates to this, because as I was kind of mentioning, I feel like the traditional view is, so here's this example of what it means to have great faith. Great faith, so great that mountains will just move out of the way for you.
Right.
And it's kind of put up as something that is it's not really attainable because you don't see mountains moving.
Well, the other thing that is connected to that is when things aren't going your way in your life, it's kind of brought back to, well, your faith must be really small or non-existent, because if you just had a little tiny dab of it, just a mustard seed amount of it, well, then you would have whatever mountains or obstacles or challenges that are before you would just be pushed aside, because God can do all those things. And it really removes the person as the agent in their life, and it externalizes it entirely to God. And I'm not saying that God doesn't or can't
do miracles and move mountains.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that, but I think that we're really missing the point of what it means to be convinced of a thing and to have faith and then to walk in accordance to that.
Yeah.
And people use this as their justification.
Right, yeah, because they're like, you must not have any faith, because if you had only a tiny bit of true faith,
really good faith.
Right, then you would be as big as a mustard plant.
Yeah, which only grows 7 feet tall at the most.
Yeah, 3, 5, 7 feet. It really doesn't grow that big. But something interesting about the mustard plant, as we were doing some research, it is extremely hardy and very hard to get rid of.
Yeah, you plant it, you're going to be fighting it, maybe forever.
You're right. And we feel that that's a little better example of what faith actually is, rather than just, if you have just a tiny amount, you're going to grow really big. Which seems ambiguous. But yeah, if you have a mustard seed in your garden that you're trying to get rid of, the whole thing is they're very tough and very hardy, and really the only way to slow its growth is to cut it off or pull it up before it goes to seed.
And also that key is slow the growth.
Slow the growth.
As in it's
Yeah,
still there.
still there. It's still very hardy and very
Yeah.
hard to get rid of. But to slow the growth, you have to cut off or uproot it before it goes to seed and takes root. Which, if you think about it in the context of this idea of faith is being convinced of a thing, there is an idea that you are convinced of. The only way to and then sorry, I want to complete this thought. There's an idea you are convinced of, and then you act accordingly. And next week we're going to look at a whole bunch of examples in the Bible of great faith and some less so faith, and this will hopefully become much more clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have an idea that takes root in your mind, then you are going to be permanent, and your actions are going to follow the thing that you are convinced of. But if the devil or anyone or yourself, whatever, can pull up the idea by the roots or cut it off before it goes to seed and takes root, then that is the most effective way to slow the growth of faith.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's really important with this idea is if you think of the mustard seed as this ambiguous faith thing, you really feel you can be convinced. Here, that's the direction I'm going to go with. You can become convinced of when your prayers don't seem to be answered that you must be faithless.
Yeah.
Because we've been told from, traditional beliefs of what faith is well, you just got to believe harder. Just do it harder, do it more. And you're like, if I'm pouring everything in, I remember when I was a kid, I believed that if I prayed really hard and I left my journal out open, that an angel could come and rewrite a note directly from God. I was very convinced of this thing. And so my actions in alignment with this conviction was I laid my journal out every night and I prayed really hard that an angel could come and write a note. Did I ever get a note from an angel? No, I did not. And when I didn't get that note from the angel, how I felt is I felt like I was a failure because of the traditional belief of this whole mustard thing of, well, I just must, even though I felt like I believed so wholeheartedly in this thing and that's all I needed to do, I never obtained it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like a little more mature understanding of faith would be a little more like I've already been written a note.
Right. Exactly.
I have this very long note that has been written me.
Yep.
This is where I'm going to read.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to our one of our favorite verses in Peter, 2 Peter, where it talks about all things being given.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so with this idea, it is our belief, and again, we're going to talk more about some of these examples in the next podcast, and then possibly after that, I think we may talk about the spoken word and how it relates, because I think it has a big part to do with it as well. Okay. Anyways, stay tuned because there's a lot that really goes into this, and I feel like maybe sometimes we're jumping the gun a little bit, but we're trying to make it cohesive and share what we're learning here.
Yeah. So if it sounds like heresy,
it's not.
It's not. We promise. Please write to us your beliefs.
Maybe
That's
it's
fine.
heresy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the definition of heresy is contrary to orthodox belief.
Okay, well then maybe it is heresy.
Maybe it is heresy. I don't know.
But we will, to our best efforts, give multiple examples and biblical texts to demonstrate this concept.
And ultimately, we're not infallible by any means. We very well could be wrong, but from our experiences in our life as we've strove to follow Christ and study the Bible, this seems to be what the Bible teaches.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be pretty clear to us. Okay, so this concept really kind of comes down to something that we feel is very profound, and we really like the idea, and we're gonna put it in one of the designs of our shirts. We don't exactly know how to do at the time of this recording how to do that yet.
Got
By the
one
time
idea.
You guys, yeah, we got one idea, but it's not a finished idea yet. When you guys listen to it, maybe the shirt will be on the website. I'm not sure, but at the time of this recording, it's still in progress. Anyways, it's the idea that faith moves mountains because you grab a shovel and you go move the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are convinced
that
that mountain needs to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like the tough mustard plant that does not go away, does not give up, you grab your little tiny shovel and you go and you start moving that mountain one shovel at a time.
Yep.
And you do so with prayer, with faith, with what is it here? Verse 21, howbeit this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it with prayer and fasting and steadiness.
Consistency. Grit,
and,
maybe.
Grit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the concepts that we believe that faith, plays a part in a manner that is different than tradition.
And we've seen examples, and I'll try not to be too specific in any way, but we've seen groups of people or entities be convinced of a thing, and they have, when you look at it, they're a little bit not right in a lot of areas, but yet because of their conviction, whether it's from God or not, they have very steadily progressed and worked
in the thing in which they are convinced.
In the thing in which they're convinced, and have really, they've made something really big for themselves. And I think that's where it gets tricky, because you can't, just because someone's getting what it is that they're convinced about does not mean
that they're convinced of the truth.
That they're convinced of the truth, and that it's God who's blessing them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we can see something like that in one of the examples that we'll talk about hopefully next week with the centurion who had faith greater than anyone in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly how he learned some of that was possibly in a secular setting.
Yeah. Because he had big armies, and he knew that, being in charge of 100, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that 100 people? So that's what centurion means. Yeah. And he knew that if he spoke it, then they'd follow through.
Yeah.
And so that carries over. And I think that's important also to realize in our personal life, is our experiences everywhere influence the way that we show up, even in our relationship with God. And so continuing to check those biases and really study the word for what the word says.
Yeah.
And not try to push it into some sort of mold that fits what your pastor said or your great Aunt Lou said.
Or what tradition tried. You study the word not to confirm tradition, but to find out the truth.
Yes. And that is hard to do. Like, the emotional work is very hard to do.
Prayer and fasting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and this idea is also in these original definitions from the original language. There's not necessarily anything in there that says that in order to have faith, you have to be convinced of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you are convinced of a thing, and then you act in accordance with it.
And I think you were telling me about how an Old Testament, I'm blanking now on who and the details, but that God said, "I'll go before you."
Yeah, I mean, there's many promises where he was saying, "I'll go before you" to Joshua, the Israelites, as they took the promised land.
Yeah.
Is that where?
I think maybe. To? Yeah, but just I think it was the concept we were talking about a long time ago of God goes before his children, and we had kind of the experience, if you will, when we were at the park with our kids and our 20-month-old.
So I think it's not necessarily going before, but
going
being with.
Yeah.
Yeah, being with you. In Joshua, when the angel was encouraging, the Lord was encouraging Joshua. He essentially says, study in the word every day, and I will go with
Mhm.
you wherever you go.
Yeah. And then the example I was going to give is we were at the park
Yeah,
and our 20-month-old toddles off into the woods because he's
just does that.
just does that. And so next thing I know, Seth's gone. He's following the 20-month-old. I'm left behind with the 4-year-old. And they walk all over the place.
Do it a great big loop.
Great big loop. And, Seth's letting him be self directed, self guided, so to speak. But he's right there with him. He's not going to be like, he's fine. He'll figure it out or he'll come back or no. And what did you tell me? Like, why were you there?
Well, I was there obviously to keep him safe.
Right.
As he was toddling off and around, just exploring and being a little boy, um,
Having fun.
a burgeoning little boy having fun. And he obviously knew I was there the whole time. He was looking back and whatever else, but I was largely just following him. As he wound through the woods and off through the field and up into, yeah, I was just following him, and I had the thought, oh, like I think this is in one way in which God says, I will be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, with another topic that we're really going to get deep into eventually is what we call the original family model. Our Heavenly Father, our family is modeled after the Godhead and modeled after Heavenly Father. And so, yeah, when He says, I will be with you wherever you go, if you do these things, yeah, it is really struck home that, my son, I was just following him around, having a grand old time while he was exploring, and I was following wherever he went.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with him to protect him, to
Yeah.
guide him, make sure he was safe.
Yep. And I'm sure, like, I wasn't there because I was left behind with the 4-year-old, but I'm sure if Aldrich started to walk away into something bad, right? You would have immediately been there to pick him up and
Oh, yeah.
move him away. And so I think often when we approach the way our relationship with God and Him as our Heavenly Father, we feel like we're trying, I don't know, at least I have felt like I'm trying to placate someone who has a very specific path with a very specific direction, with a very specific plan and a speed in which I'm supposed to be walking it, and just constantly feeling like I'm tripping. And instead, I often now have been sitting with this thought of maybe my Heavenly Father wants me to be safe. He wants me to be healthy and happy. And his guidance, his principles, his commandments have been put in place to keep me safe. Um, but there's a lot more space than maybe previously believed.
Yeah.
Anyways, we might be getting a little off topic. But
Maybe a little bit, but I think it goes in good. All right, so now we've talking about this idea a little bit about how faith can move mountains because it is a shovel that keeps digging.
mm-hmm.
So we want to tell a little bit about kind of what's been going on over the last 8 to 9 months. 8 months, yeah, I think it was about 8 months since we started recording. So a little bit of background on that. The first podcast, when we recorded it, shortly thereafter, there was a series of events that really started to change up things. And then, yeah, by the time we recorded the third podcast, yeah, we were kind of really moving in a completely different direction than what we had thought we were going to be going. And we really kind of took a pause on To Be Gotten. I think that was a mistake now looking back, but this is the path that we took, so it's what happened. But then all of those events have been teaching us this idea of faith and moving mountains. So that's kind of a broad overview. Um, what happened after that first podcast? So we've had this idea of To Be Gotten for a while. And
Probably at least 4 years now.
4 years?
I mean, because it was there, it's been there for a real long time with Kai and I and the t-shirt
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it's gotten just more and more. solid,
and
if you
and
will.
evolved a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, we've been kind of working on it, getting it turned into a business for the last couple of years. And yeah, when we recorded the first podcast, there was still quite a bit of stuff to do, but we're like, okay, we're gonna at least start this one podcast. We're gonna start doing recordings and
Start working on
it. Right after that, what essentially happened?
Well, essentially, we lost multiple streams of income
In the
in
span
quick
of about
recession.
2 weeks.
Recession? No, I don't know. Quick concession.
Concession.
Yeah.
Succession.
Secession. There we go. Yeah, I mean, you had gotten a really big project done for one of your contracts in the end of June. It was a celebration. We had been working towards this goal forever, and so that was great. And then we had
But there was a lot of hours involved with that.
lots of hours, yeah.
And the hours dropped.
And the hours significantly decreased about, I think, 50%. And the hours were not just decreased, but also capped. So they weren't wanting to pay more than about 50% of what they had been paying for this project to be finished. Then we were also working on the adoption, and then that got finalized. And I think that was like finalized on a Monday, and that Wednesday we find out through a group text that your other contract was essentially over with.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, it was like two-thirds of the income at that point in time.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So we lost, child support and alimony with the adoption going away, which again was a celebration. It was something we were anticipating, something we were looking forward to, working towards. Same with the big contract that got finished. Also, it was a celebration, but then the decrease in pay, and then the other contract that was supposed to essentially be our, I don't know.
It was the biggest contract.
It was the biggest,
had,
yeah.
And it got cut by we thought it was getting cut by 70%, something like that.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we went from being decently comfortable to
not having enough.
Shoot, we're gonna lose our house next month.
Yeah. Which then just sent into full on panic mode, and we made some not so great decisions. We're still stuck with Sally the snowmobile trailer.
Sally the snowmobile trailer, which we paid too much for and we can't sell.
Yeah. Got strong-armed into it, kind of. I don't know. We were scared, I think, is
there was a little bit of it. It was a little bit of a panic buy.
Yeah. And it'll work. It'll be fine. But we definitely went just full panic of we have to sell the house, we need to sell it now, we need to get out of all these things, and
we need to buy trailers to move into. That was part of the big thing. We're just like, okay, well, if we have to get out of this house, we got to go somewhere to go. Alongside all of this, I'm going to mention just briefly this idea that we have decided that we really want to be out of debt.
Yes.
And so we didn't want to just move from being like, okay, in this house straight into something else.
Well, and I think it's important to mention that the mortgage and the percentage rate that we're locked in here to go and move into anything else would just be entirely, I mean, we could move into something else, yes, but we would move into something way, way worse, and it would cost the same exact amount.
Same amount, yeah.
So that was the other element, I think, of just like, why would we jump ship to be back into a worse ship?
Yeah, and this comes at a time when, TBG, To Be Gotten, is a business that we're trying to start, and kind of the idea is, has quite a bit of potential. And it was nowhere near running yet.
Yeah.
When all of this went down, and so we're like, oh shoot, like we're really gonna.
We can't spend our time doing this. Like we got to get ready to get out.
Right.
And so that's essentially what we have been doing for the last, I don't know, it's been 8 months since that last recording, but we've been working on To Be Got now for at least
3 months. 2 months now. Pretty hard.
Yeah, really hard. Late nights. Long days, because we put the house on the market pretty promptly.
Yeah, but it still took a couple months to really kind of get it.
Yeah, put everything together, have everything staged, get everything signed, and all this stuff. So yeah, I think it was about a month and a half after everything
like
that we finally got it all pulled together and on the market. Had analysis done. So we thought that we were in a good price range and we were going to sell the house for, maximum dollar, but in a decent time frame. And it sat.
And sat.
And sat.
We had a few showings.
We had showings, but it was like a sprinkle.
Lots of excuses as to why they did not want the house.
Yeah. I don't like how it's close to the road because I have kids, even though the entire property is fenced.
Yeah. And we largely had just finished fencing it.
Yeah. Because we have kids and it is close to the road.
It's close to the road.
Or we don't like the trees. Anyways, there was just lots of really funny, silly excuses because it wasn't meant to be, apparently. And I think God was really trying to bring us to something in all of it.
Yeah, and as time went on, and the house was sitting here not selling, one of the things we became convinced of is that the best plan is to, for a time, move into kind of a small fleet of trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we have purchased a small fleet of trailers for 2/3 of them for actually quite reasonable price.
Yeah.
And have been working on getting those
renovated.
Kind of renovated. One of them in particular, the one we're actually going to be living in, we're doing a lot of work on. It's gutted all the way down the frame.
Yeah.
Which is a huge project.
And we're not even, I think, at the bottom or the top of the hill quite yet
not quite
on
the
that
top
project.
Of the hill, but we're pretty close. But anyways, we became convinced of this, and so we started to work towards it, and we have definitely seen God bless in that, even though that first initial buy of, we need to find a cargo trailer to start packing our stuff into it. We found this snowmobile trailer, which, it's a 20-foot enclosed trailer. The problem with it, though, is it has a fairly low payload and a very low ceiling.
Yeah, 5'10".
Yeah, and so when I stand in it, I got my head cranked over, and it's just not comfortable.
And if I'm not watching myself going out the door, I get whacked in the face. So It's not great.
It's not great.
I'm not 5'10", but the door's shorter.
Yeah.
But still, other than being in a panic mode, which maybe that should tell us something there.
Yeah.
The other two trailers that we got were incredible deals.
Yeah.
And are going to serve us really well, I think.
Once we get them remodeled.
Yeah. Which, if you want to check that out, I've been trying to post stuff on Ages Off Grid.
Mm-hmm. Sister business.
Yeah, on Instagram and YouTube. And so, if you're at all interested in what state of disrepair the trailer is in, that is where you can find out.
Yeah. Yeah, so go check that out. Ages Off Grid on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we kind of set To Be Gotten aside for a little while, and really started kind of working on trying to sell this house, and came to a point where it's not selling, and
we keep dropping the price, and we're not getting even more showings.
We're not getting more showings, at least not significantly, and we keep getting kind of bad news on the income front.
Yeah.
Especially like the beginning of this year, I feel like every board meeting I went to, I almost had a panic attack, because it's like, this is the meeting where they're going to decide what their budget is for the next year.
And they had been talking about decreasing
it. And then, what is it by now? 4 months ago or so, the other contract, the board that kind of has the final say, decided to just suddenly stop funding it entirely. Without notifying anyone, which was kind of their mode of operation that's got us in this mess in the first place, at least from that contract side. And the subcommittee that I actually technically work for in that contract, just is now footing the bill, but the money's running out.
Mm-hmm. Very graciously have been footing the bill.
They're very graciously footing the bill, and being patient with the fact that I have lots on my plate. But anyways, we just kept kind of getting more of this bad news, and it really started to come down to, we don't have many months left before the income goes away, and we have no buyer for the house. Mm-hmm. And we don't know
when or if we will get a buyer.
If we will, and the income is kind of very fast approaching a fairly hard deadline where those two contracts go away.
And if you haven't tried to go out and get a job recently, it's very hard to get a job. So it's not just like, I had family members be like, well, just have Seth go get a different job. And I'm not saying that there aren't jobs out there, but either the jobs that are out there would not even cover our mortgage,
Yeah.
or they aren't local, so we're still in a same situation of, well, we could move, but then how are we going to afford paying for two places to live in? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So what we became convinced of through much of this experience is that we really need to work on To Begotten. Because we do feel like, in kind of the evolution of the starting of this business, we do feel like a lot of it was given to us by God. And that, I know that sounds cliche, but the idea really, I remember when it really started to take shape. My wife and I were just laying in bed talking, and we were talking about some of these concepts that we were beginning to study and realize where tradition really was lacking. Which I think there's a lot of precedent for with the Sadducees and Pharisees. Anyways, we really just started talking about it, and then the idea really just started to come together at that point.
How all of it would fit
How
together.
all of it would fit together: the
The
podcast, the concepts,
shirts.
the ideas we'd be talking about, the church, all of that really started to come together at that point. And so we do very much feel like God has led us into this business. And so we just kind of came, as we really started to approach, the deadline where the contracts would go away, we really started to realize that we really need to work on this business and spin it up, because once it's running, and with this faith piece, if we're convinced of this, once it's running, then God can bless, because he's not going to just start the business for us and suddenly start taking care of us through this business if we haven't started the business.
Yeah.
And that's where the faith really comes in.
Picking up the shovel,
and one shovel load at a time, you move
one
the mountain.
Long night.
One long night at a
after
time.
Another long night.
After another long night. Yeah, and it's just one shovel full after another. One brick at a time is how you build a building. And that's the idea that we believe is biblical faith, is one shovel at a time, one brick at a time, and before you know it, you've built a whole building, you've built a business, and then God can bless you through that avenue as he has blessed you through the entire process from the beginning.
And I think what's really crazy cool thus far, because God's definitely still authoring this story, and we're still a little bit feels like we're in the storm.
And as of recording of this podcast, we have sold one shirt.
Yeah.
Woohoo! So we're not making money yet.
No.
So we're still in the mode of learning and practicing this faith.
Yeah. But at the same time, the same week that we officially wrote down, we're going to go live, this is it, kind of no turning back, we have to stay consistent once we go live. Once we decided that, put it on the calendar, we had a showing. They came back the next day. We had a second showing. The day before we were going to go live, we got an offer on the house.
Yeah. So the plan was to go live on a Monday, which podcast will be theoretically, assuming we can say consistent, and that's the plan. They'll be coming out on Mondays.
Every other
Monday, yes. I'm sorry. Every other Monday in the evening. So, the plan was to go live on this particular Monday. The previous Wednesday, these people came and looked at the house. They really liked it. We heard through our realtor that they had plans to look at another house the next day on Thursday. Thursday rolled around, and they wanted to see it again. And so they came and saw it, and then we found out afterwards through our realtor that they did not look at the other one that they were planning on looking at, and they only looked at ours. And so, through the weekend, and we kind of got this idea from our realtor that, good chance an offer is going to come in. And so, we start kind of getting excited, as we start to see some of this faith take fruit or give fruit. And I remember, though, on Friday, you were very much trying not to be too hopeful.
Yeah.
You're like, if they haven't given an offer by now, it's probably not going to happen. Sunday morning, I think, was I making breakfast or something like that? You got a text from
our realtor
with an offer, or was that?
He said that they went in to write up the documents.
Oh yeah. So he texted her and said that they're going and writing an offer right now.
Yeah, and we got it that afternoon at 2.
Yeah. So then, there was some scrambling in trying to figure out if and how and, if we should counter offer, etc.
Yeah, because the offer, I think that's the thing with faith is we sometimes really expect things to work out exactly how we envisioned it, and the offer was not what I envisioned.
No.
And so when we got it, there kind of was that disappointment of this isn't quite playing out how I anticipated.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What do we do? And yet when we prayed about it and we took Sunday night, we took Monday night, and we didn't get back to them until Tuesday and really prayed about, do we counteroffer? Do we ask for more? Do we extend the closing date? Like all of the pieces. And yet every time we came to prayer, it just, at least for me, for sure, it just became more and more clear that we just needed to accept it.
Yeah.
Essentially, there was a little bit of modifications that we made, but it was more or less
Pretty slight.
very slight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because we got some indication through our realtor that they were largely kind of taking a shot in the dark and offering their top dollar.
yeah,
And even though we were wanting as much as we could, and we're thinking about, okay, how do we counter offer and get them to come up a little bit? At the end of the day, what we became convinced of is that God is able to save by many as by few.
Yeah.
Like with Gideon. And the story of Gideon kind of did play, a part in it quite a bit because, in that story, Gideon had quite a large army at the beginning. And every time he kind of turned around or God spoke to him, it got trimmed down.
Yeah.
And then it got trimmed down more. And it got trimmed down even more until the point where he had 300 men. And the promise was that the Lord can save by many or by few. And it ended up being a complete rout with lanterns, torches.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's what that's what I'm holding on to is that promise because we're not going to be walking away with what we thought we would. It's going to be a lot harder to achieve kind of the next steps, the next goals, at least in the
long-term goal.
Long-term goal
Yeah.
in a adequately fast way, And so
the mountain's a little bigger now.
The mountain is bigger and it's like solid granite or something. I don't know.
But the mountain's going away.
It is, little by little.
Little by little.
So I feel like I'm choosing to believe that it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, and a really big thing is with this sale, we're going to get completely out of debt. And we're going to have a little bit of money left over to start working on something.
Yeah. And that's something I think we could talk about more in the future is what we've been convinced about of debt and being a slave to the lender and end time events and all of those things. And so if you're just sitting on your debt because, oh, it's fine, what can they really do to me? We don't think that that's a good solution. You need to get out from your debts. You should not leverage debt. There's no such thing as good debt.
No.
It is a scam. That I think that the way that the very rich do, quote, good debt is something that is entirely different. And the general population does not have the access to leverage debt the way that the very rich do, as in like lending, loaning against their stock value and stuff like that. I think that's maybe slightly different than
it is
good mortgage.
It is changing a little bit because of apps like Robinhood, etc. But yeah, the large point is what we became convinced that debt was a really big problem. And being slave to the lender, and you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve Mammon and the Lord at the same time. There's lots that we can get into there. We'll probably do a podcast about that too.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, we became convinced that as one of the things that we became convinced of in this whole story is that debt was a real big problem. And because of that conviction and because of the prayer and the fasting and the study and everything that we've done, what we've been working towards over the last, by now, almost 10 months, something like that. Like with the sale of this house, we close in a couple weeks. Few weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. It's
3 weeks.
It's coming up pretty quick here. At the time of this recording, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that the sale, even at the lower price than what we were really wanting, is going to get us out of debt and give us a little bit to work with to start doing something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a huge blessing. It's going to be a huge weight off our shoulders.
Mm-hmm. To be free.
Yeah. Yeah. Another text I really like that goes along with this. What is it? Is it Psalms 81?
See here, I thought you were gonna do the open your mouth wide.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Oh.
See if I can say it from memory. Oh, here it is. Yep, Psalm 81:10. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually another good example of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like, open your mouth wide. Convinced that God will take care of you, so open your mouth wide, and then he will fill it. And so that's what we're trying to do with this business, is open our mouth wide. And then we're trusting that God is going to fill it as we continue to work and have faith and act with that conviction.
Yep. 100%.
All right. What are we going to talk about as we wrap this up? Have we told the story sufficiently?
I think so. The kind of tagline for Ages Off Grid, but I just felt like it applied so well to this topic here, is called, convinced, covered. And, I just think that really encapsulates faith of when God calls you and you hear his voice, you can hear God, but if you don't move, there's nothing's going to result from it. And so once you hear the Lord's voice, being convinced of it and it solidifying in your mind, taking root, it being a stubborn mustard seed and really spreading, growing, and taking over. And then once that takes place, your Lord your God's going to cover you. He's going to go with you. He's going to be like the cloud during the day or the pillar of fire at night, like he was with the Israelites. He's going to be there. He's going to lead. He's going to guide. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to forsake you. And that is faith, is walking in that.
Yeah. Yeah, and just as how, I followed my son around in the park with every intention and every desire, to make sure he was safe and thriving and to just be with him. Like, our Heavenly Father is that times so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we go, through this stage of life and move in this direction, we're convinced that this is, biblical, and that our Father in heaven will take care of us, even if we have only pennies at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the TBG podcast. Next time, I think we're going to try to talk about biblical examples of faith and expand on this topic even more. I'm kind of excited about that because there's a lot of really cool stories. And I think maybe even after that, we'll talk about the spoken word and how it fits into this idea of faith.
What you say does matter.
Does matter, yes. That's what we've been working on with our daughter. Your
Yeah.
words are powerful.
Yeah.
Speak the truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.